Hello, this is Chris Smith with Synergy Resources. This video will be an overview of CloudSuite Industrial or CSI version 10 by Infor. And if you're not already aware, CSI is a resource planning system designed to help your business reach its full potential by streamlining how it operates. CSI can be installed locally or accessed via any web browser, and also offers multi-site capabilities. This is what a typical industrial manufacturing plant looks like today. It encompasses all these different processes within the same environment, and the goal is to get everything connected from sales all the way through to logistics and shipping. So much productivity is lost when these processes don't speak to each other, or users are having to manage these core processes outside of their main system. CloudSuite was built to unify this environment into a cohesive business flow. Looking at the functional footprint of Infor CloudSuite, you can see it includes all of the major functionality you normally see broken up into third-party products with other systems. Sales order management and CRM are fully integrated into Microsoft Outlook right out of the box. Infor offers best-in-class supply chain planning and management, looking all the way through a fully indented BOM with advanced planning and scheduling, looking at finite capacity to boil it down to a capable to promise date you can count on. Definitely a huge differentiator with Infor, and we'll take a deeper look later on. You'll also have a full quality management solution, so tracking quality by supplier, in-process quality inspections, and performance reporting is all part of the standard CloudSuite Industrial solution within the SaaS model. Also included with Infor's cloud offering is service management, which will be a huge benefit to companies who need to track field service personnel with mobile devices, manage loaners and rentals, and even see service history as of a certain date. Financial management entails everything you'd expect to find from an accounting perspective, including asset management and multi-currency, which does not require an add-on, by the way. And projects and project resource planning is fully supported out of the box. It comes with the model, which more and more companies are leveraging today. This is a great way to track R&D, or for companies with long-term, large-scale manufacturing opportunities with the support you need for milestone billing and multiple sources contributing to whatever cost buckets you can dream up. The system comes with tons of KPIs and reports right out of the box, so you can hit the ground running with visibility into the performance and health of your business. Plus, Infor supports human resources and payroll for companies wishing to leverage that functionality. And finally, you'll also have access to the same technology platform Infor used to build the entire CloudSuite platform, so you'll be equipped with all the extensibility you can shake a stick at. And that means you can modify and change any of the forms that you'll see. You can add buttons, shortcuts, you can monitor fields, trigger workflows, or even develop your own applications. It's only limited by your own imagination. CSI is more than just ERP. It is comprised of numerous components that all work together. Amazon Web Services offers top-notch security and performance infrastructure you can count on. Infor OS is the tech platform that surrounds the core ERP. It ties all these components together with extensive visibility, connectivity, and collaboration tools such as role-based homepages, workflows and alerts, and document management. We'll cover these in further detail. The core capabilities refers to the ERP application itself, or CSI. This is where you create estimates, ship orders, process jobs, and receive POs. This system is 30 years in the making and was built by manufacturers and for manufacturers. The IoT capabilities enable integrations with other tools that you might use to enhance your business, such as machine data collection, API calls to vendor websites, integration with CAD environments, or whatever else you can dream up. And then finally, you'll have analytics tools. The system comes with tons of pre-existing reports and KPIs out of the box, but users are also enabled to create their own, and you'll see how easy it is to do. Infor OS is represented by the gray strip across the top here. The rest of what you see below is whatever application you have selected with this app switcher over here, which we like to call the Rubik's Cube. This will show you other parts of the system, such as CSI, document management, and home pages. And that's what you see below this gray strip. A great way to start your day is with a home page. Home pages bring consumable information to the user and provide doorways to the places you need to go. Users can have many home pages, and it all comes out of the box with a number of these. They can be role-specific or company-centric. An executive might be focused on high-level metrics or cash flow, but if you're the buyer, you need to know about POs and inventory. So when you come in to start your day, you can land right here and see how things are doing and what needs attention. You can expand a record to see more info. You can run a utility. You can even drill into something you need to take care of. Other times, they can be focused more on consumable information, such as analytical dashboards with fancy pie charts and interactive maps to impress your colleagues. Other options include a useful link to an external website you visit often. We have a widget for that. Configuring it is as simple as giving it a link for the image you want to display, such as the Synergy logo, and the address of the website. You might also want to see some notifications. We have a widget for that too. It might be part of a workflow, which I can see here. These home pages are also easy to personalize. You can move stuff around, you can resize it, you can get rid of it, you can even add more widgets from a catalog. Add, configure, and rearrange these elements to form an interactive dashboard just for you or for a group of users by copying, exporting, or even publishing them to that catalog. You don't have to be a programmer, and you don't have to get IT involved just to have your own space where you can assess and manage the exceptions. Let's take a peek at how to get around in CSI and how forms work. This is where you enter quotes, ship orders, and various other tasks related to running your business. Forms are used to display, collect, and validate information about a record, whether it's an order, a vendor, a job, or countless others. And there are many ways to access them, such as that widget shortcut I used to get here, which I configured to take me to the customer's form, filtered for customers in New Jersey. I could use other criteria if I chose, but that's how I set up that link. Another way I can access them is through bookmarks, which I can organize and drop into one or more user-defined buckets for quick access. You probably won't need nearly as many as I do. Most people are going to use 5 or 10 forms on a daily basis. This is an easy way for them to get to those. And the Explorer menu is accessible via this little hamburger icon. This is a great way to explore the system by concept, by role, or process. Forms have some key elements that we should make note of here. The form itself lays on top of this grid, and I have this slider to adjust my view. You'll also have a variety of control types, along with tabs for grouping fields or even housing a subtable. And what I see on the form is impacted by which record I have selected in the grid, which acts a lot like an Excel table. I can move columns around or hide the ones I don't need, and my preferences are tied to my profile, so it doesn't impact how a user or a group of users would want to see the same data. And speaking of Excel, we all know Excel isn't going anywhere. So even though you can do mass updates right here in the grid, CSI makes it easy for those who want to export the data and do whatever Excel magic they want to do. You can also import records from Excel straight into this grid by appending or even overriding. But don't worry, because it's all permissions based and the data is validated. You may have noticed these buttons to the right, which are shortcuts to places one might usually go from here. While viewing a customer, you might want to see what orders are associated with them. So I can click this guy and it'll open up a new form, filtered by the customer I had selected on the parent. This is called a linked form, indicated by this little symbol, which means I can go back to the parent, select a different record, and I'll see the orders form update accordingly. And this is a great way to drill down without getting lost in a maze. In addition to display properties, I can also personalize things in other ways by adding new fields or buttons that might be a shortcut or even a trigger for a utility or a report to run. Remember, Infor equips you with all the tools the platform itself was built on, so you're in control. With the right security roles, you can click this button and it takes you right to the Mongoose platform, where you can drag and drop new elements from the left and adjust their properties on the right. There's some magical stuff that you can do here, and we'd be happy to dive deeper to show you what's possible there. And speaking of security roles, by now you may have noticed quite a few ways to change things. So let me take a quick sidebar to mention how CSI uses a solid security role system to control who can change things, who can access certain places, or even who can see a specific field. Security roles can be user-specific, or they can apply to a group or even site-wide if you choose. And this means I can be a part of a group that doesn't have access to certain things, but my specific user profile has an extra security role enabled, so I can get to certain things without granting access to others. A great way to explore flexibility when it comes to that type of stuff. And to wrap things up about forms, let's touch real quick on filtering. I launched this form using a homepage link with filter settings to show me all the customers in New Jersey, which produced 4 results. I could take it a step further and look for customers in New Jersey and also in Huron County, and that would narrow it down even further. Any of these fields can be used as filter criteria, along with support for operators and wildcards to help with dates. And for example, if I wanted to only see customers with a credit limit over $250,000, I can simply put a greater than symbol in front and voila, I've narrowed it down even further. And if there's a complex set of criteria, I have 15 fields I want to filter on, I can easily save that filter criteria and then recall it again to switch between record sets on the fly. So let's take a look at how CSI handles document management, and then we'll move into how users can collaborate with each other in the system. You'll also get to see how you can have the system notify you about things and even trigger workflows for approvals and task automation. Right now, we're back in CSI looking at a record from your item master. You might see something that stands out to you and you want to ask another user about it. Some might go right to Outlook and whip up a fresh email for a lovely exchange, but they still need to know what you're talking about. So you have to copy the item number, or some might even take a screenshot. Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to do all that? CSI lets you collaborate with other users without having to leave the system. If you want to ask someone about this record, you can click the share button up here and it will open up a new message for you to type your question, and you can even mention someone specific so it'll show up in their own inbox. It even includes a helpful embedded drill down link so the other users can go straight to this record and see what the heck you're talking about. You can attach other documents and even address the message to a wider group of users. Another great tool is the context window, which opens up from the side when you click this little icon in the Mingle toolbar. Smart Help will give you information relevant to what you're seeing, such as this form. Relevant information shows you documents related to this record. This is contextual. You'll also see any active tasks relevant to you, or maybe even some ongoing conversations you've been tagged in. Right now, Smart Help is telling you about this items form, what it's used for, or how it works. If you were on a different form, you'd see some different content here. This is very helpful as you continue to explore the system. You might find a nice utility you can run, but you might want to know a bit more about it before you hit the button. Smart Help will give you the highlights and maybe even a little bit of information about how it works, along with some helpful links to some relevant content on Infor's documentation library. If you click on that link, it opens up in a new tab and you can explore there to your heart's content, and when you're done, you simply close it and pick up where you left off. Related information is connected with IDM, which is Infor's document management system. I hear IDM can work with like 150 document types. So you have images, videos, PDF, you can even do GIF images. So let's try it out. If you want to associate an image with this item, you can simply drag and drop it right from your folder. Tell it you want this to be part of the item record and click upload. Now this image will be available anywhere in this system where this item is used. This means if you have a customer order for this item, the image will automatically be associated with that order because the order is associated with the item. So now that you have access to this image, you have some options on how you want to work with it. You can share it with other users, kind of like how I showed you before. You can download it, you can print it, you can email it, whatever. Let's take a closer look at this document from within IDM itself, just by clicking this button. Viewing the document from within IDM gives me some information about certain properties. Maybe the file name, when it was created, blah, blah, blah. Then you have attributes, which are user defined, and in this case, it's what's tying this document to that particular item record in CSI. History shows me the life cycle for this document. I can check it out, I can modify it, and then check it back in to see the timeline and an incremented rev level that I can revert back to if I like. But you might want to control that, like if it was work instructions or a print. You might want management to approve something like that before it's available on the production floor. Fortunately, you can define multiple document types and associate different protocols that might be more appropriate for something you want a little bit more control over. So let's try adding another document, but this time we're going to do it right here in IDM, and I'll show you how CSI equips you with the right tools to manage this with a little bit more depth. So let's add some work instructions. This will be a different document type, but the way we create it is mostly the same. You simply drag your file here and then you click Save. This document type includes a workflow that will notify a group of users you can establish with the authority to approve or reject. The Attributes tab shows us this is currently in review status. This won't be available to the rest of the system or other users until it is approved. And now we're in the midst of this workflow. So if I go to my inbox, you'll see that you received a notification with a user-defined message asking you to review this document. You'll see some basic information along with any attachments. You'll have the option to delegate it to someone else on the list, or you can assign it to yourself and other users would be able to see that. If you need to see the document itself, you can simply follow the embedded drillback link, and once you've decided it's good to go, you can maybe apply a quick note and approve it with the click of a button. So let's go back to IDM via the app switcher and see the system impact. You can refresh this record and now you'll see that the status has been set to approved. So that means this document will now be available for your operators within that work center. Now what if you're out to lunch? CSI can push notifications to your device, making it easy for you to unchain yourself from your desk while still being able to take care of things that need your attention. So let's say your sales rep wants to increase the credit limit for a customer. Surprise, surprise, right? CSI puts you in control when it comes to handling things like that. You might want that field to be read-only for most users, and only certain people can change it. Another, perhaps more elegant solution could be to control it with a workflow. In this scenario, we want to allow the field to be changed by the user, but we also want the right people to know about it and approve the change before they go live. The sales rep changes the value and saves the record. This triggers a workflow that suspends the record while it is still under review. You can still take orders, you can still ship stuff, but the fields are locked. Meanwhile, notifications are distributed to the inboxes, but you're also going to see it on your phone. I recorded the screen on my device and came back here to overlay it so you can see in real time how I can approve this while the server gets my third refill. When the notification comes in, you can click on it to take you straight to the request where you get basic info and the ability to drill down if necessary. You might want to correspond with the sales rep a little if you have any questions, but if everything is cool, you can just go ahead and approve it. Now we can see the new value and how the record is no longer suspended. Now we've learned how CSI equips you with the ability to manage documents, share information with other users, dialogue back and forth, monitor important fields, and even trigger workflows to send out alerts and or approval requests in your inbox or even on your mobile app. We've learned so much about how to work with specific records, but it's hard to see the forest for the trees. So CSI enables you to take a step back and summarize the data for consumable information you need to run your business and make sound decisions. Everybody always wants to know about reporting. That's because you need it if you're ever going to be good. If you ever want to be the well-oiled machine your company was meant to be, CSI puts it all at your fingertips and comes out of the box with literally hundreds of reports. And it even offers them up in different formats because everyone is different. CSI gives you lots of options, whether you're just trying to do ad hoc reporting on the fly or pushing a weekly sales report to the CEO as a PDF he can view on his iPad. So let's start with ad hoc reporting. Your boss has asked you for the min-max replenishment parameters for stock manufactured items currently in WIP. Wow, okay. Before you pick up the phone to call IT, remember how I showed you before how easy it is to filter the data we see. So let's filter for manufactured items that are stocked and have a quantity in WIP greater than 0. By the way, F4 is my hotkey to unfilter, and that one's free, folks. So, all right, we have a few records here. Okay, now what? Are you gonna screenshot this? I mean, sure, you could, but you have better options than that. You could export the list to an Excel file, but you might want to get rid of some of the extra columns, and that could get a bit tedious. So CSI offers data views to let you slice and dice the data on the fly. Here you see your data set on a super flexible format where you can resize and rearrange, or even group by, or even hide them altogether. You can apply multiple filters, sort and summarize columns, and when you're happy with it, you can save it and recall it again later, just in case. For now, you can export to Excel right from here. Now, you might be the type to not want to be clicking around too much. So, if you started to need this report regularly, you could have a button on a form that launches it, or you could also have a shortcut right from your widget on your homepage. This report is one of literally hundreds of reports that come right out of the box. This one accepts input parameters, and if you had a need to apply a number of them regularly, you could store your options and recall them again later. If you want to automate even further, you could set this report to run on a regular basis, ready to view or distribute to stakeholders. Or you can have them generated by a trigger you set. So when the order line is filled, the invoice is not only sent to designated recipients, it might also be attached to the order line for the future reference of those who have permission to see, should your customer ever call in about it. If they need another copy, we learned before how you have options to download, share, email, print, etc. Let's talk about analytics. The CSI also offers a great visualization tool for advanced reporting called Burst, which includes all the fancy charts and graphs you could shake a stick at. We call them dashlets, which come in many shapes and sizes, from key performance indicators to charts, you got graphs, reports, or even just a filtered list. And just like a homepage widget, these dashlets can be added, configured, and rearranged on a dashboard, with plenty of options to give them the look and the feel you're after. You can even have multiple dashboards you can easily switch between. You could have Burst running in its own browser tab, while you have other CloudSuite applications running on another. And these tools can operate independently, which is great for those who want to see them side by side. Alternatively, the dashboard itself, or any dashlet it contains, can be embedded right into your homepage. Here, we have the same dashboard we were just looking at, right here on my role-based landing page, bringing all the information I might need to get my job done. Even as a widget, I can tweak it from here and save my changes, but this dashboard isn't just a place for fancy visuals. This is an extremely interactive tool, and these dashlets can be linked together. Sure, you can apply filters, and that's easy enough, but you kind of need to know what you're looking for, what the name of the field is, and stuff like that But if you're just scrolling through the charts and see something that stands out, just click on that guy, and you'll see the others fall right in line as your colleagues gasp in awe. This is a super intuitive way to shape the data on demand without having to worry about saving it as a new version or trying to remember what that filter criteria might have been. You can just click right there on the chart and it will apply that filter wherever else it makes sense. You can even toggle to maximize that little fella while you lean back and sip on your coffee. But before you take that lap for a refill, you might want to print or export this list. Set up a notification to email this report to your boss or even an external user on a daily basis. So again, Burst gives you yet another helpful tool to bring you the information you need to make informed business decisions. Your business generates useful data all day long. CSI lets you capture it and boil it down in a way that's easy to digest and distribute. So, as a manufacturing company, I'm sure you're ready to see some cool stuff about how to, manufacture things. Well, look no further. We're about to dig into the system and see how manufactured items work when we define their routing and bill of materials. Items, operations, and materials all work together to form what is commonly referred to as a BOM, or bill of material, or even bill of manufacture, all somewhat synonymous terms. But I like to think of it as a recipe, because if you want to bake a cake, you're going to need a recipe that tells you what steps to take and what ingredients you're going to need. And if you want to make an item, then you're going to need a bill of material or BOM that tells you what operations to perform and what materials you'll need. And this recipe is called the current BOM. You can think of it as an item's template or the standard for manufacturing a particular item. And any manufactured item will have one or more operations, and each of those operations could have one or more materials that will be consumed as the operation is completed. If we take a closer look here, each operation is tied to a work center, which represents a group of resources that could either be people or machines, and each of those can have specific shifts and even excluded holidays, so you're not trying to schedule resources outside of their normal availability. And these elements work together to tell the system how much cost to apply when work is done, as well as how to schedule the operation. So let's take a look at the materials. Any materials tied to an operation need to have a source. Of course, the materials are items, which have their own source setting to tell the system how the demand will be met, but we have a handful of supply reference options. Any purchased item might be sourced to a purchase order, but if it's stocked, it might pull it from inventory. A manufactured item that isn't stocked might be sourced to a job order. So let's have a look at an item with a pretty basic BOM structure, because items are the backbone of CSI, and how you define them has a big impact on how the rest of the system will work. Now, this is a sprocket, and as you can see, it's a manufactured item. Now, the source field represents the default way this item is brought into the system. And I say default because an item that is normally manufactured can still be purchased, and vice versa. You might be able to make this item for $5, but you have limited capacity right now, and there's a place down the street that will make them for $6, and their lead time is pretty decent. So it's nice to have that alternative, which gives you flexibility to switch between sources on the fly. And if this item was stocked, you might have some on a shelf, and then whatever demand you had for this item would be pulled from inventory, but it's not stocked. So anytime we need one, we're going to need to release a job order to make it. And when that job order is created, you can feed it a copy of this item's current BOM. And CSI will use that BOM information to help you make sure you have the materials on hand and the resource capacity to get it scheduled. So let's have a closer look at what a BOM actually looks like. The engineering board is a great way to visualize the basic BOM structure for a manufactured item. And what we see here is a list of operations represented by the darker blue, and then we see materials in the lighter shade. Some operations have one or more material requirements, and this one is telling me that I need half a pound of this steel for every sprocket that I'm going to make. This will be consumed as part of operation 10. And every operation could have one or more materials. This one doesn't have any. This one has 2. And we can see them here. And by right-clicking, I can go to the details on this particular item and see exactly what's going on. So this is a nice interactive way to visualize and get more details on your bill of material. Now, what we see here is known as a flat BOM because it only has a single layer. But if any of these materials happen to also be a manufactured item, then we'll need that item's bill of material to be represented here. So let's take a look at what's called an indented BOM or a multi-level BOM. We'll close this up and we'll look at another item. Like the sprocket, this bicycle is a manufactured item. And if we take a look at the engineering board on this item, we'll see that it has multiple levels. This is because one or more material requirements of the parent are also manufactured items, which will have their own BOM structure. I can click on this item here. This is the frame, and it's a manufactured item, and it's going to be sourced to another job that has its own bill of materials that represents how to make this frame assembly. And as you can see here, we have an item on Op 30 that should look familiar. This is that sprocket that we were looking at before. And so we see that it's sourced to its own job because we'll need to make that too. And this BOM structure is exactly what we saw before. So when we need to make this bicycle, we're going to create a job that's going to bring all of this bill of material structure into it. You'll have a main or a parent job, as well as multiple subjobs or children. The subjobs are completed to satisfy the material demand of the parent. Tying this all together, the bill of material is how CSI will know what resources are required so it can create POs for purchased items you don't have, subjobs for manufactured items you don't have, as well as allocating the right resources for the operations you'll need to complete in the time frame you need it by. And speaking of resources and timing, let's talk about planning and scheduling. So let's unpack how the planning engine works, which is a major differentiator for CloudSuite. You'll notice several options here. Master production schedule is where you manually tell it what you want to make and when. Somewhat like a forecast, and it will plan accordingly. This could be a good starting point for some businesses who are new to these ideas, but most businesses will quickly outgrow this, and CSI offers more advanced options. Traditional MRP looks at when you need something and backs out the lead time to tell you when you need to get moving. Sounds nice, but it loses its luster when you need it today and it tells you to start 30 days ago. Does that sound judgy, or is it just me? I mean, traditional MRP assumes you can get it done because it doesn't know about your capacity. Advanced MRP will. It will see the resources you have available and schedule work to them. This is a huge step up. It doesn't care about the lead time. It just knows how much labor you need from that resource and will back schedule it from the due date. But what winds up happening is you overbook your resources and wind up with 15 8-hour jobs piled up on the same resource because they all have the same due date. Because it assumes you have infinite capacity, and then it's on you to pick which jobs you want to prioritize. That's a lot of work. At the top of this hill is APS, Advanced Planning and Scheduling, which takes a very important step forward, and then it will not just see your resource, but it will consider its finite capacity. This guy is only here for 8 hours today. So if there are 2 jobs for 8 hours each, it will schedule the one with a higher priority backwards from the due date, and then look for openings in your finite capacity schedule for that resource to schedule the other job. It will also schedule materials this way. So it's combining all of this to plan materials and schedule work according to your capacity. And that's some deep stuff, and I just laid a bunch of nerd speak on you, but you'll set this tool to run overnight, and what it will do first is toss out the current plans and then create new ones, looking at your supply, demand, capacity, lead times, all of it. APS planning doesn't judge you for not starting your job 30 days ago. It focuses on today forward, what needs to get done, and presents plans for you to get there. The Material Planner Workbench is where we go to review those plans and pick the ones we want to say yes to, and it's dead easy. So the Material Planner Workbench is what I like to call the easy button for converting those plans into jobs and purchase orders. It will display the stuff you need to buy or the stuff you need to make. Based on your due date and your lead time, here's when you need to get this ordered. It gives me a suggested quantity based on what I have on hand, what I have coming in, what I have going out, safety stock levels, min-max settings, and even how far out to look, so you're not buying these 3 times a week. And maybe that's okay for this item, but this other one you only want to buy once a month. Fortunately, CSI gives you the control at the item level. And if you're not sure why the plan looks like this, you can go into the detail, and it will tell you a story about what your quantity on hand will look like over time, should you say yes to this plan. So in this example, it's showing me what I have right now, which is below safety stock. I'm going to have 2 more jobs consuming them, leaving me with even less. But if I firm up the plan to buy 1,000, then I'll have a bunch. But my order min and multiple is only 100. Why wouldn't it just tell me to buy 700? Why 1,000? Well, this is because I defined my item with a 14-day supply. So it tells me to buy enough to get me through the next 2 weeks. And as you can see, I'm going to have more jobs consuming it after I receive this purchase order. And by the end of my 14 days, my 1,000 unit purchase leaves me just a hair above my safety stock, which is exactly what I want to see. I can still adjust it. The plan is merely a suggestion. I can tell it to buy 1,200 if it'll make me feel better. But you might also want to get it from an alternate vendor this time. You can see up top how it compares the pricing and lead times between them. The alternate vendor might have a higher cost, but he can get it here faster. And if I'm behind on this job, that's a good plan to me. So let's do it. All I have to do is click this box to use the alternate. And once I'm happy with this or other plans, I can select the ones I want by manually checking these boxes, or I can tell it to process everything through a particular date, and when I hit generate, it will create purchase orders automatically. I can even tell it which PO if I just wanted to add to an existing one versus create a new one. But this tool can be used the exact same way for jobs. It can even cross-reference materials to jobs if necessary. So when this item is received, it will see the job as the destination and let you bypass inventory and issue the material straight to the job. Easy. So once we've firmed up some plans to release, then we should check out how CSI does all the heavy lifting for you when it comes to scheduling. And this is the Production Planner Home, one of many role-based home pages within CSI that brings all the information you need for this role into one place, with quick access to setup tools as well as shortcuts to areas relevant to you, such as the schedule for your resources. Here, you can give it some parameters for a concise view. You can create groups of resources, or you can just select them all and for now maybe tell it to start today and show 2 weeks out. Voila! You now have a visual aid to see which resources have extra capacity, which is the light area versus these dark areas that represent when this particular resource is not available. And these blue spots represent your jobs. Now you might also use conditional formatting up here to highlight the late ones, and you have some options to make it look the way that you want, but this isn't just a chart to look at. You might spot a way you can improve a late job by pulling it forward where you see extra capacity on the timeline, or even by dragging it to another resource altogether. Again, consumable information with the agility to take action if needed. So, back on the Production Planner page, a planner might also want to know about resource utilization. Well, CSI can help you quickly identify bottlenecks in your capacity. So pick a date and tell it how far out to look. Set your threshold to say, only show me resource utilized above 75%, for instance. Now it'll show you how much capacity versus load each resource has for each interval that you specified. If you spot something to investigate, you can isolate that resource and see exactly what's scheduled to it over time. So based on my criteria, I'm going to see a visual load profile along with the data beneath. In addition to scheduled jobs, it's also going to show me planned and forecast, giving me even more insight to make informed decisions. Now that we've learned how CSI can use finite capacity to manage your supply chain and production schedule, let's see how it can also help you understand when you can meet that demand. This is what CSI calls Capable to Promise, or CTP. And among other applications, this will be quite handy for a sales rep who's trying to give the customer a due date that you can actually meet versus a canned lead time or plucking a date out of the sky that turns the shop floor upside down. We've all been there. This is a customer order line for an item with a quantity and a set due date. You might notice this projected date field, which is system managed. CSI's advanced planning system put that value there because it saw the demand and recognized you have enough on hand that wasn't otherwise allocated. So let's say your customer just called and asked your sales rep for just one more. Most sales reps are going to just say, okay, Mr. Customer, that shouldn't be a problem at all. We'll get that order shipped out today. Well, increasing the quantity by one seems fine, but it's best practice to make sure you are capable to promise such a thing. CSI makes that easy for you to get answers on the fly, perhaps even with your customer still on the phone. Making it a habit to hit this Get CTP button right here is going to save your business a lot of heartache. Here you can see this ominous indicator telling you it's going to take a week to get that done and wants to know if you're going to accept this new due date. Well, what's the problem? This quantities button should give us a clue. Here you can see you already had exactly the quantity ordered, so it was no problem to get that shipped out, but they wanted one more. Well, that's where the problem lies. As a fallback, we can also see we can still ship out what they originally ordered, so this does give us some options, but we don't have enough to meet that extra quantity. So let's bounce back and see why exactly it's going to take so long. It turns out this is a manufactured item, and to get just one more means we're going to have to make it. Do we have the resource capacity for that? Do we have the materials on hand for that? This chart will show us that we have component shortages along the way, causing delays, which is what's driving that suggested date. Bouncing back again, the suggestion makes more sense. But now it's time to choose between getting what we have out today or getting the quantity they asked for a little bit later. Of course, we have some other options like shipping partial and stuff like that, but that's another story. If they must have that extra item and don't want us to ship it sooner, then I can say yes, and it will update the due date on the order line and apply the original as the request date. And by the way, the request date isn't just for reference. Even though we accepted the later due date, the system will look for opportunities to improve on it. That's the power of Infor's capable to promise functionality. So now that we've touched on the planning and the scheduling, we might want to see how CloudSuite can empower your shop floor to know what needs to be worked on and when it needs to be done, what materials are going to be required, work instructions, etc. Infor offers a tool called Factory Track to help you track activities on the shop floor. Operators need to know what comes next and be able to report labor, view work instructions, issue materials, all that jazz. Factory Track makes it easy with an intuitive interface that was designed with full touchscreen control in mind. Some businesses might use handheld tablets, or they might have kiosks at key locations on the floor that multiple operators might use. It's pretty common for a user to scan their badge or use biometrics or even just use their employee number, and once they're in, they can clock in and out, which is standard stuff, but you might also want them to say when they go on break or out to lunch. It depends on what level of granularity you really want, but they'll also be able to view their timesheet from here and even submit time off requests. When it comes to labor, they'll be able to log time directly to a job. So it'll capture the labor and apply cost. You can build a work set if you'll have one person working on multiple jobs, or you can set up teams of multiple people working on a single job. In addition to direct labor, you can track indirect labor. If you were to put some stuff away or have to clean up your workstation and want to keep track of that time, you can apply setup time for a job and even track machine time separately from your labor. You might not use all of these, but just know that you have these options available to you, but you can also remove some of them if you want to just kind of keep it nice and simple for your users. These options are also compatible if you want to use paper travelers with barcodes they can scan with any handheld device. But the Work Center is one that's used often because they can come in here and see a list of operations scheduled to their work center. And then there's a lot of great information here at their fingertips, including options to see notes and documents associated with it. So let's check out the notes, and here we see some helpful work instructions along with an important announcement. And if I were David, I might have something to say about this, but he chooses serenity, and we're just going to keep moving. Let's see if there are any documents to see associated with this operation. And this is where a user might see an assembly drawing. And this is coming through IDM. And we're seeing it because someone associated it directly with this job operation. Whatever job operation is selected, the operator can start the clock running and then come back when he's done and tell it how many units he made and if he's finished, and maybe he's not finished. He just needs to stop the clock, and then he's going to go out to lunch and come back later. He might be going home for the day and wants to come back. He can still continue working on this operation and log more time. When he's done, then he can say the operation is complete, and it'll pass things along to the next one. So let's look at material. This one's pretty easy. Operators might want to use this tool to issue material directly to a job or perform lots of other material-related activities. If you use a Kanban system for replenishment, then you can perform tasks related to that here if you're doing any sort of work order list production. And then you'll also find some quality actions here. If you're using any sort of in-process quality inspections, here you can keep track of test records and process dispositions based on inspection results. And there's a lot more that FactoryTrack can do to empower users to perform warehouse and shipping and receiving transactions as well. You'll also have plenty of tools that can make it easy for your supervisors to manage attendance, overtime, approve timesheets, and time off requests. You can even process payroll through here and do lots of other HR-related activities, but this is just a taste of FactoryTrack, and these are just some of the tools available to you that will empower your business to reach its full potential. So if you're ready to learn more about what Synergy can do to help you transform your business, then get in touch with us. Thanks for watching.